A pretty annoying personality trait about myself is my constant drive to become better at FPS games. It truly doesn't matter what game it is. It could be Call of Duty, it could be Battlefield, Halo, Gears of War, Fortnite. It doesn't matter what type of game it is. At the end of the day, I want to become better and improve my skill. So every time I hop on one of these games, I go ahead, I jot down things I'm doing correctly. I try to jot down things I'm doing wrong. I want to improve everything that I'm trying to do. And it consumes my FPS life, but I'm going to try to turn this what I would call a curse, an obsession of trying to improve. And I'm going to try to turn it into something a little bit better for myself. And I'm going to try to make more content just like this, where I go over tips and tricks that I have learned over the time of my experience with FPS games. And hopefully I can help others improve as well with their game. Now, just a little quick reminder, or I didn't even tell you guys, so not a reminder, but let me just tell you guys straight up, these tips and tricks are not for your accuracy and not for your aim. So if you want to learn anything of that sort, make sure you go to a different video, check out some different content, tons of videos on YouTube helping you and teaching you learn how to actually shoot the gun. But these tips and tricks are more for strategic thinking, I guess I should say, when it comes to an FPS game. And it might not make too much sense now, but as we get into the video, I think you guys will understand. Now, I have 3 tips for you guys to improve your skills at FPS games. Now, the first one is going to be a little hard, especially for Call of Duty fans, to come to a conclusion on, but you have to come to a conclusion that you are not the all-time best. Now, I know not many people out there think this, but the whole grind, the reason that people get angry and frustrated and pissed off when they're playing a game is because they're not performing good. They're dying a lot, someone is kicking their butt, it pisses them off. You know, everybody strives to get the most kills, the most OBJ, and to win a lot, even if it's not an FPS game. And it's just any other game out there, people want to win and have a lot of frags, and that's how they enjoy these type of games. So the first step is coming to a conclusion that you aren't the absolute best. Now, after you come to that conclusion, you have to understand how to handle certain gunfights. You can't challenge everything. People get into a mentality, like I just said, they want to become gods at the game. They want to be able to never be beaten. They never want to lose a gunfight. But you have to understand, you're not going to win every gunfight. One of the prime things that people have to understand about FPS games is sometimes it's more about the positioning than it is more about how good you can aim and shoot. Hence why I just said you can't always win every gunfight. People get pissed off that they lose certain situations, but you gotta understand, you put yourself in that situation. Sometimes you have to observe the enemy, you have to retreat from gunfights, you can't win every single one, and you can't challenge every single one. If you see that the enemy has a better head glitch, if he has a different type of weapon than you, let's say you have an SMG and they have an AR long range, he's already melting you. Don't try to continue and finish the gunfight. Get out of there. If he put 2-3 bullets into you and you have a chance to retreat and actually think of a different way to attack him, go ahead and go do it. But what I see people do is they don't retreat. They don't try to find a different strategy to take down that AR player. They will continuously push the same angle over and over and over and over, getting more frustrated and more frustrated every single time that they die, when logically it's not the best way to go about the business. You have to understand you aren't the best in the game. Even a noob, a guy who just first picks up an FPS game, will be able to get a couple of kills on you. That's just how it happens. So if you want to go on high kill games, if you want to become a god, if you never want to die and you want to be the best of the best, sometimes you have to retreat and get out of gunfights instead of full on engaging. Now, I know this is a very hard thing to do because in a lot of FPS games, the time to kill is so fast that a lot of the engagements you die in the blink of an eye. You won't get to react to anything to be able to run away and find a different way to strategically push the enemy. But actually, something that I learned while playing Gears of War, which is once again like I'm trying to teach you guys in this video, with a lot of FPS games, you get a lot of knowledge on how you should be able to play them. The more you play, the more variety you have in your book, the better you will be at overall. You can't just main Call of Duty and be good at Call of Duty. If you main Call of Duty, Gears, Halo, and you know all these other different games, you'll be 10 times better at Call of Duty. Trust me. But a technique that I learned in Gears of War is moving cover to cover. A lot of people and techniques in Gears of War is wall bouncing and maneuvering off cover. Nobody is strafing. Nobody's running in a straight line. The majority of people are moving, like I just said, cover to cover. Now, if we take this strategy over to a faster time to kill game like Call of Duty, it works just as well. If you focus on moving cover to cover instead of just blindly running down the street, you will be able to get into cover, have protection, and then with that protection, you will have a chance to either Like I said, 1, engage with the enemy, or 2, be able to flee and find another way to engage with the enemy. And this doesn't mean find your nearest window, your nearest building, and camp it up, because that's not going to give you a lot of kills. Camping might be effective for certain players, but it's not going to top you with 50, 60, 70, 80 plus kills in other titles. You'll probably either die a lot or you'll absolutely see nobody. The way that you find players and get a lot of kills is being aggressive. But instead of being aggressive and running down the street and just being in the open and getting shot in the face and getting angry about it, while you're running, make sure each path that you take is to a different piece of cover, and do not run at all until you see that piece of cover. That's a good way to train yourself into the mindset of making sure that you always have a piece of cover that will allow you to see the enemy, see what weapon they're using, see if you're able to engage with the enemy, and if you should retreat or keep pushing forward. And of course, the more you use this technique from running cover to cover, it'll just become natural. You don't have to think about it anymore. Now, tip number 2 kind of counters everything that I've been telling to you guys. Now, I'm not telling you guys to camp or not move and just set up shop in the back of the map holding a window. I'm not telling you guys to do that, but every once in a while you have to slow down and hold a good position. In FPS games, positioning is key. You want the height advantage, you want the better angle, and if any of these factors are off, some of the gunfights are completely out of your control, and once again, like I said, that causes anger. People get pissed off, people get angry, but sometimes over just simply your aim, positioning is just a tad bit more important. And I'm trying to be as clear as possible. I'm not telling you guys to camp, because again, that's not going to get you any kills, and you won't even see anybody if you just decide to camp in the weirdest spots. A very good player knows which positions of the map to hold at which times of the game. Where people are spawning, where flags are being capped, where hard points are at. There's certain spots of the maps that you have to rotate to constantly. You have to constantly be moving, being aggro, and pushing, and trying to gain control over these power positions throughout whole games. Now, a good technique that I taught myself for this trick right here is to slow down on your trigger time. So if you play on PC, that means to slow down on your left click. If you play on controller, that means slow down on RB or whatever your fire button is. At the end of the day, the point that you're trying to do here is to trick your brain into forcing yourself to hold positions and not be so aggro, pushing into pointless situations. Like I said, if you're going to blindlessly push into enemy spawn, you can't get angry. You know, that's an easy death. But I can't blame you. Your brain is just wired that way. In FPS games, it's all about reaction time. You know, in Call of Duty, especially when you see someone, you gotta click. It's like, oh, I see him, click, see him, click, see him, click. You know, it's all about how fast you can get to the enemy. So if you can trick your brain, and when you see someone, you want to go, you want to shoot, but at the same time, you're going so slow on the trigger, you're not going to shoot on time. It's going to force your brain to slow down a bit, and hopefully what this will do for you is make your positioning better, because you won't want to be so aggro anymore, because you know if you're running right up in their faces, you're going to take 10 years to push down on the fire button, so you won't have good reaction time there. But if you hold a nice choke point, a good position on B flag, and you know exactly where they're coming from, you can take as much time as you want on the trigger, because at the end of the day, you have the better position, you will still be able to kill them. Now, obviously, you're not going to be doing this forever, because that's just tedious, you know, it's going to hurt, and it's not fun to be sitting there taking 10 years to push down on the trigger. But like I said, just do it enough until you can rewire your brain to be better at positioning on maps. And finally, for tip number 3. Now, this tip I learned specifically from Halo because it's very crucial to know how to strafe in that game. But yes, strafing is tip number 3. You have to learn movement. Sometimes movement is more important than cover, because let's say you do run into a situation where you are out in the open. Like I said earlier, you should be training yourself to run from cover to cover so you never have to run into that situation, and then you can engage with more knowledge, but you can't always control that. Every once in a while you will get into a situation, no cover, you're out in the open, or it's up close and personal in a 1v1 gunfight, and you have to rely on your movement to be able to outgun the enemy. Now yes, aim and tracking is very important in gunfights, but sometimes you have to understand avoiding the enemy could be even more important. Just like in an aim trainer, when you're trying to learn how to track an enemy, and you know they have that little object bouncing around the screen multiple times. Isn't it sometimes hard and difficult to track it at times? Isn't some of the movements a little confusing? They make no sense. They're a little out of ordinary, and it's hard to, you know, predict where the object is going. You have to put yourself in that bot's shoes, and you have to do that exact same thing to the enemy. You have to bob, you have to weave, and you have to mix up your strafing pattern to make yourself a harder target. If you're just strafing left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, the same beat every single time, and obviously once they see you too and they know your name and they know how you play, you are an easy target for the remainder of the game. When I play any FPS game, every enemy I engage with gets a different strafe pattern. It might not even seem important. It might not seem big, but every different enemy gets a different pattern because you have to keep it fresh, you have to keep it unique, and you have to keep yourself on your toes and avoiding bullets. But ladies and gentlemen, these are just a few of my personal tips and tricks for improving at FPS games. Now, I wouldn't suggest going ahead and doing them all at once. I wouldn't suggest, going crazy with trying to master different strafing patterns and at the same time looking to run from cover to cover, and then at the same time going extremely slow on the trigger. Don't do them all at once. Practice each one individually. Give them about maybe a week of time, maybe a little less, and you will slowly master each and every one, and they'll just all come naturally. And overall, it will perfect your experience, and you will see that you don't always have to rely on aim. You can just strictly rely on game knowledge. But guys, let me know down in the comment section if you want to see more content like this. I have tons of different ideas. I'm constantly jotting down tips and tricks, so I have plenty more to share for you guys if you do enjoy this style of content. But ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like, and by all means, if you hate it, leave a dislike. Also, if you're brand new and you enjoy the content, please subscribe and hit that notification button. Also, want to chat with me, there's two ways to do so. I have a Twitter and Discord. Both those links are down in the description. And also, if you want to catch me live streams on video games, I do that over on Twitch. Link to that is in the description as well. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in. See you all next one. Peace out.